we're going to do some more improv. I would hope you've come to expect that to a degree. As I pointed out last week, I know some of you maybe don't believe me, everybody did really well with the sort of 1 minute, come up here, tell us about something you know about thing, right? There were obviously some nerves, and that's to be expected as well. But I think all told, everybody handled it pretty well. We're going to do something similar, but what I want to do today is use this particular exercise to move into our discussion around our first, I guess, presentation, which is going to be a YouTube video. If you haven't looked at that prompt yet, we're going to go over it during this class. But everything we're doing in here is prepping you for that particular mechanism, which some of you might find easier because you're not, in front of folks. So anyway, what I want to do, I'm going to explain to you how this is going to work, and then we'll go through that old song and dance of asking for volunteers. We'll just see what happens, right? This particular game is called the Historian. It's similar to what we did last week. It's like I planned this with a little change. You'll see it when I tell you. So you're going to come up here, and I have a question in a second. But you're going to come up here and just for like a minute or two, explain the history of, explain to us how a thing works. Okay? Now, importantly, this is not a thing you will choose. This is a thing I will choose. I brought a list. It's right here. None of it's crazy. Like, I'll give you an example. I'll tell you all the rules and then I'll give you the example. So you'll see what I'm talking about. But it's nothing wild. It is probably something you don't actually know about, though. So the key to this exercise is, in a lot of ways, a lot of the same kind of stuff we've been doing thus far. Thinking on your feet, but most importantly, connecting dots, right? Whatever you start to say, whatever reasoning you begin to give, well then that's you now. So you have to roll with that. You have to make that work. You have to explain that in further detail. You just kind of go down the rabbit hole, right? And you do this for a minute or two, no big deal. The first thing I wanted to ask, this is an honest question because I'm not quite sure. Do you think it would help you guys or hinder you to have a timer up here behind you going? You think it would help? Some people say no. Okay, well, like what I thought I would do, but then I thought I would ask you, I could have it up here, and you could stand over here like we kind of did before, and you can't really, like if you're up here, you can't see it. Now I know some of you kept doing one of these, it's like, well, I mean, don't do that. But if that's going to be too tempting for most of you, then we won't do it, and I'll just time you over here. Of course, you can still really cut and maybe see it over there, but it's smaller. Is the majority thinking on the screen over here? Or apathy? Is it apathy? Sweet. Okay. Jesus. We'll try it over here then. I'm going to set the timer for 2 minutes. If you really want to see it, it's going to be pretty small, so it's going to be out of your way if you don't want to look at it. But you may be able to look around me or something and see it. For a minute or two, I want you to explain the history of something, how we arrived at a particular tradition or a saying. I have like little idioms on here, little cliches. So the example. They're all kind of like this. Now I hate it because I actually know this one. Ideally, you won't know the one I give you. But if you do, tell us about that for a minute or two. That'd be cool. It's still the same idea. You got to connect thoughts, all right? But I happen to know this one. Because again, I'm all about language. So why is cursing bad? Why do we think of bad words as bad? All right. Cursing is bad because when the French invaded England in 1066, it's called the Norman Conquest. Does anybody, if anyone in here is into your history, you may know about this a little bit. The French nobility took over England. So the French nobles became the English nobles. The French upper class became the English upper class. And they spoke a Latin language. It's a derivative of French. Like French is a little bit different these days. It's been hundreds of years. But it's the same sort of thing. That's from Latin. And Latinate terms tend to be longer, more flowery. A lot of medical terms, for instance, are in Latin. So all those crazy words, or like why dinosaurs' names are so long, because they're derivative of Latin in a lot of cases. That's what Latin looks like. That means the lower class spoke an English derivative, which actually comes from German. Stick with me, we're almost there. The Germanic language, by and large, especially at this time, much more monosyllabic. That means one-syllable words, much shorter. So for instance, if you've ever wondered why, think of some examples, like why we call deer meat venison, right? That's weird. Why wouldn't you just call it deer? Well, because deer, the actual animal, comes from the Germanic, monosyllabic, whereas venison comes from the polysyllabic, the Latinate root. And the reason that is because back in the day, the lower class would hunt the animals, but the higher class would eat the animals. Do you see? So lower class would be out hunting deer, that's their language. Upper class would kind of reap the fruits of that. Oh, that's venison, right? Because that's my multisyllabic language, stemming from French. What does this have to do with cursing? Well, the words those Germanic people would use that have like come down through the ages were also monosyllabic when they maybe stubbed their toe, or referred to copulation, or an animal did the thing they do probably a couple times a day, right, in the barnyard. I'm referring to like shit, fuck, things like that, right? Those are one syllable. Those come from the lower classes. That's where we get the idea of vulgarity. Oh, I went over 2 minutes. I'll finish that thought real quick. Vulgarity means low class, right? That's all that means. It actually means those folks had less money. The words that people with less money used became bad because we hate poor people. That's where that comes from. It's just all the people with money hating on those folks. Kind of fun. I actually know that one, right? And I hate that I give that as an example, but it's the same sort of idea, right? You do not have to go as long as I did. Chances are very good I went as long as I did because, as I mentioned several times, I knew that one. But it's the same sort of thing. Ideally, I want you to invent a history, right? I want you to make this up, have fun. We'll see how you do. Did you have your hand up now?
I was going to ask you, what if you don't have like information on the topic?
That's the best. Yeah.
So you can just fabricate something?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, ideally, you don't know because that would exercise your muscles even more, right? And I want you to get up here and I'm going to give you something and immediately you're going to go, not that one. Which is great. And then you maybe think for 1 second, you go, and you just go. You see what you try to convince us. Because there's a very good chance we don't know either, right? It's sort of a mixture of our expert game from the other day, right, and the thing we did last week. So you're explaining the history of probably a thing you don't know very much about. All right, move this out of the way. So whenever we call somebody, like I said, you just kind of go over there, you'll stand off by yourself, right? And I will give you a topic. Now here's a little rule I thought of. Trying to be nice, I am. Some of you don't believe me. I'm going to give you one. I will give you the opportunity to pass one time. Okay?
Can we know what our other option is before we pass?
Well, I'll let you pass, and then I'll give you the other option, and then you can choose.
Okay.
Because yeah, that would really suck if you like that one's worse. All right. So yeah, we'll see how we do. Do I have any volunteers? Anybody want to try? You want to try? Sweet. Come on up.
Wait, does everybody have to do it?
I'm probably not going to have time for everyone. You're rethinking yourself. Oh, yeah. Well, I do appreciate the thought. All right. Do you want to explain why we drive on the right side of the road?
Yeah.
Okay. Thought you would pass. All right. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we drive on the right side of the road because whenever you turn left, if we were on the left side, you would hit on other cars. Other countries, they drive on the left side of the road, and whenever I went to the Bahamas, it's like you're about to hit everybody. And I know turning, that was a big problem. But here, actually, in the United States, before cars, there was a big problem on which side what to do. So like riding a bike, you could do either one. You could ride a bike on the left side or the right side. And they discovered that whenever you're turning, it becomes a problem because you wreck into other people. So that's why we drive on the right side and our steering wheels are on the left side. But in other countries, it's on the other side. So like that kind of helps with wrecking. So I'm off for a minute, but
All right, close enough.
that's all I've got.
Close enough. All right, let's give her a hand. Let's give her a hand. I was trying real hard to like visualize as you were talking about. I was like,
Yeah, I know, I was going.
yeah. Well, I mean, because yeah, a lot of countries do drive on the left side. I'm like, but they seem to make it work. Like, okay. So what the assignment is, I have a couple points I want to make, and I may go back and change this if it's too confusing. But the length, immediately, I'm not super sold on this. I say 7 to 10 plus minutes, 10 plus, which allows for going over, right? But as I think you guys are starting to figure out now, even 2 minutes, like we did today. Some of you dabbled with 2 minutes. Some of you went just over 1 minute, right? And granted, nothing you guys presented on today was a thing that you knew about, so like that will make it trickier. But 10 minutes is kind of a long time. 7 minutes, depending on what you do your presentation on, could be a long time. And we have some examples to help you think about this. But what I'm saying right now is, and I hate to put it this way, your presentation, when you do it, doesn't even necessarily have to be 7 minutes long, okay? It's gonna depend a lot upon what you choose to do. So for instance, don't do this, but if you did a thing like how to tie your shoes, this is something I have to explain every other day to my 4-year-old, right? He still hasn't quite, mostly because he doesn't want to figure it out, but like, we'll sit down, I'll break it down for him. It takes about 30 seconds, maybe 60 if you tie both, like as an example. But if I made that video, it's only a minute long, maybe I should have picked something more involved, is basically what I'm saying, okay? So you also want to think a little bit about your subject. Could it, like, so the tying shoes thing might be one aspect if I really want to do that for some reason, but could I extend that out to a little further? How to dress a toddler. I could actually make that video. It's hard, depending on their age. Neither one of my boys wants to wear their clothes. That's real. So depending on what mood they're in, that video might have a very, a different bent. Be a lot of fighting, a lot of struggle, a lot of holding them down. I got really good, if anybody knows about Greco-Roman wrestling, there's a thing called the cradle. Basically, I figured out when they were young, I grab them by the ankles and I hold them together and lift them up. And that's how I'll put on diapers and pants, because they're like kicking, get those legs in the air, they can't do anything, right? That'd be step one. It works. All right. So there's a lot of other sort of explanation here. I would, yeah, and you could read it. This is on CourseTune. So I'm not going to read it to you. But a couple of things I want to highlight for you. It's bolded here. You probably can't tell back there. But I say things like, put your video together. What I mean by that is, and this is the difference, right? You're making a video. You're going to post this to YouTube. It can be private. If you don't want it to be public, it doesn't have to be public. But that means you're going to send me a link, and I'll be able to watch it, so I can give you your grade for it. But it also means, more importantly, that it's a video. So you're going to be able to edit this. You're going to be able to take several takes if you want, right? If you come up here first time, I'm here at your house, wherever you're filming, and you watch it back, you're like, that's awful. Fine. Delete that, try again, right? No big thing. Yes, ma'am?
Does it have to be us just talking then?
No.
Or
And
can we like give examples and like?
absolutely, and we're actually going to watch 2 short examples today. Some more on that in a second. But yeah, the more, it kind of gets at this too in the prompt. And it will vary depending upon whatever it is you choose. But for instance, in the example I was starting with the boys, I would probably have Sam, the 3-year-old, like on the floor, like, all right, I'm going to dress this kid. And he's not going to like it. And we're going to like, and I'm giving examples as I'm doing it, right? So yeah, absolutely. Depending upon what it is. You can talk to the camera, then you can cut to like doing a thing, then you can show something out. Like it depends. But yeah, more often than not, some kind of an example, some kind of an illustration is super helpful. Yeah. Okay. Anything else I wanted to underline for you real quick? no, I basically said all that. Any other questions though? That was a good one. Yes, ma'am.
So are we gonna like present the video in class or
No.
are we just gonna post it?
You're just gonna post it to YouTube. I will, I'm trying to think how to explain this cogently. I will, because we will have an assignment to like go watch them as a class, but we won't watch them in class, right? So I'm gonna post them to Courstin so that our classmates can watch them, right? But we won't like just sit in class and watch them. I think that would be torture for most of us, right? We're not gonna do that. That is your- What?
Yeah. Maybe Dave.
Well, some people will be okay with it. I think a lot of people will be really uncomfortable with doing that. I know I would be. Other questions? Okay. Well, and actually, a fuller answer to your question real quick. We are going to watch one or two in class, just to talk about them, I think. But we're going to use the other half of class. Because, so we don't have that, like, sitting in here and having to watch people watch you, like, that slow torture. We're not going to do that. Any other questions? Those are good. Okay. Now then, I have two examples just to help you sort of think about this. Before we look at them, I want to show you a couple things. So we're in week 5, right? This is Courstin. This is what it looks like. Hopefully you know that. This is the prompt. That's what we were just looking at. This is our homework for this week. It is super easy. Could not be easier. It's just a brainstorming discussion topic. Okay? I feel like half the battle with this assignment is going to be, what the hell am I going to do? Right? Some of you probably have ideas right now. Some of you, though, are a little scared. Which, again, is perfectly fine. So this is a space where you, first of all, post some ideas that you have. Talk about why you think you could talk to other people about it. But also, keep in mind the medium, why you think it might work well for a video, right? Some things would be easier to explain in a video as opposed to maybe in front of class or what have you, right? So think about that too. Talk about that in your post. And then other folks in class are going to be able to look at your thoughts and say, hey, that's a good idea, or, well, what about this? Or have you thought about adding this to your video you're thinking of, right? Like, this is just a space to get these ideas generated. Question?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
So this is kind of connected to the video thing that we're doing?
Yeah, this brainstorming?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, this is just, what am I going to do my video on, right?
Well, I think that I've done that on some videos that I might have to go redo it then. I didn't look at it that way.
I didn't hear the last thing you said. What did you say?
I've already did mine. I thought it was just like a discussion. So,
Okay.
And submitted it, so therefore I'll have to go redo it because I don't want to do that in the video.
Okay, well, that's fine too. You can redo it. That's fine. I haven't looked at them yet.
Do something different?
Sure. I mean, just to be honest with you guys, I can't think of a time I've looked at your homework before Sunday morning. I don't have time. Plus, it's not due till Saturday, so you guys don't ever really turn them until then anyway. But yeah, by all means, if you want to edit something or repost, or that's fine too. Yeah.
When's
Yes.
this video due again?
Oh, that was on the prompt. We got some weeks, yeah. Week 8, yeah, October 3rd. So we got some time. Not a ton of time, but we got some time. Other questions? Okay, so real quick, just to make sure I cover all the bases. So this is week 5 on Courstin, right? Just if you want to go find this information. There's the prompt, there's the homework, which we can talk more about in a minute if we need to. And then below that, I've added a little section of examples. We're going to watch 2 of these, and I'm going to talk to you about the third one. But they're all pretty short. That's part of the reason I chose them. All right? To begin with, I should probably turn the lights off. For these 2 examples, all I want you thinking about, and honestly, I wouldn't mind if you took a couple notes, but you do that as you will. With enough time at the end of class, and I think we'll have a little bit, we'll brainstorm a bit. But for this part, all I want you thinking of is basically things you could steal. Is your hand up right there?
Yes.
What's up?
So how important is style in this video assignment? Style?
We're going to talk about it actually with these.
Okay.
That'll be kind of part of our discussion. Yeah, what we're about to watch may better inform your question, actually. But again, so for instance, the very first video we're going to watch is animated. I'm assuming none of us are going to be doing that, right? Nor would I ask you to. That's very labor intensive. We're not doing that, unless you just want to for some reason. But there are other aspects of these videos that we could think about, that we could probably pretty easily use if we wanted to, right? Different cuts, different mechanisms. So I just want you thinking about that as we watch these. First of all, I thought that was outstanding, because now I feel like I could escape quicksand. I don't know when that'll come up, but if it does, I feel prepared. What are some things you guys noticed? Some again, we're probably not going to animate ours, although you can if you want to. But what are some other mechanisms you could probably use, do you think? Seem to come in handy there. Music, yeah. And again, not all of us might be comfortable with that, but the video I was thinking about putting together, I wrote some music for it, you know, a little thing. Captions, absolutely. And look, you guys are the YouTube generation, by the way, so you're in some ways more prepared for this assignment than I would ever be. Like, think about what works, right? What grabs your attention? Is there a certain way to cut to a thing or away from a thing? If we need information, you could say it, but maybe you could underscore really important information in what you said with some captions. Absolutely. Do you have your hand up over there? I assume that's a no. Okay.
I was spaced out.
You were what?
Spaced out.
Oh, fair enough. All right. Anything else you guys noticed?
He talked about, or the video talked about, like, not just how to escape, but he talked about the quicksand.
Yeah.
So, like, you can talk about something, like whatever your how-to is, like if it's baking a cake, you can talk about the ingredients.
Well, like how they work.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing too, yeah, because, so for instance, I think part of the reason it does that, it sort of breaks down what quicksand is, how it works. It's trying to calm you down, right? So again, this would depend upon, like how you handle it would depend upon your subject. But in this particular case, isn't step one, as it says, don't panic? Well, one of the easiest ways not to panic is to kind of understand it better. My only knowledge of quicksand before I saw this video was like the cartoons I grew up with. And they're probably not super accurate. So that's kind of scary. Yeah, absolutely. If you're baking a cake, or if you're, again, I'm not thinking of great examples. I'm just on mine about dressing a toddler. But maybe you talk about, I could talk about the differences between a regular diaper and a pull-up. That's a different operation. You have to put your fucking legs into the pull-up, but like the diaper is much more, you can strap it in, it's done, right? Yeah, absolutely, good. The last note I had on that was just an interesting subject. Again, I would say, I imagine most of us would never use that information, hopefully. But I kind of like the idea, like how to escape. Like if I saw this just on the internet, I had to go find it for this, I would click on that. How to escape quicksand, 2 minutes? Yeah, I'll watch that. I would love to know a thing I'll never need to know, right? So an interesting subject could help as well. Probably make it more fun for you too. All right. Last example. This is another thing I knew nothing about. It's how to blow out curly hair. I didn't even know what that meant. So again, there's some similarities, first of all, between this one and the last one, right? Even though the subject matter is pretty different. Did you guys notice anything like that? What's up?
Animation.
We have some animations, and again, you don't have to do that. It kind of seems like they did that to spice it up a little bit. Because all it was really doing here was like a little bitty break between steps, right? But then you notice too, the animation here would just be what that guy would do anyway. But yes,
So,
captions, right? Those seem to be popular. What do you say back there?
none of in both videos, none of the steps were ambiguous in any way.
Yeah. Well, they're very specific, right? They're very small too. You notice that they're digestible. That's a thing you can easily forget when you're explaining a thing you know a lot about. The big trap you can run into yourselves, whatever you choose, ideally you're going to know how to do this thing. You know how to do it. So in your brain, you can easily skip steps. You kind of know what you're talking about. And so you'll forget to explain something, right? Or you'll forget to maybe break down what a thing is. whether it's the parts of it or how it works or why we need to know it, right? So you really got to kind of go through at some point in your process and think about, how would I explain this to a person who has no idea how this works? Because that's kind of what we're after, right? That's not to say you can't maybe be too detailed. I'm sure you could be too detailed. But yeah, absolutely. Very digestible chunks of information. Good. Anything else you guys noticed in the video? Maybe differences between this one and the other one. This one also had music. And I'm not saying everybody has to have music. I'm not saying that.
They're both about 2 minutes long.
They're very short. They are. And again, part of that, or a big part of that is, I think, the subject, right? She's doing how to blow out curly hair. The other one is how to get out of quicksand. Those can kind of be explained in like 2 minutes, right? So for our purposes, you probably want to think about something that's a little more involved than that, has maybe a few more steps than that, or requires a few more like examples than that. But yeah, absolutely. Did you guys like the little dramatization at the beginning of this one? I thought that was pretty silly. Do you guys know what a dramatization is? All right, so right after the introduction, which by the way, this one had an introduction, the first one kind of didn't, right? She tells you what they're going to do. Immediately after that, she like meets the stylist. And she's like, I've never been able to do this. And he's like, I'm going to help you, right? They didn't meet right then. He didn't just walk into this white room and was like, hey, does anybody need hair trouble? I'm here for it, you know? They met, they talked about it, like, can you do this? He's like, I can absolutely do that if you can pay me. They're like, awesome. And then they show up and they do it, right? But they had this little moment of, hey, stranger, you know. That's a nice, if you want to have a little story to what you're doing. How to play Don't Fear the Reaper, right? On electric guitar. Maybe you're doing that, but then in the middle of it, the Grim Reaper shows up. And you teach him, or like something stupid. I don't know, right? Like you can, there's all kinds of sort of narrative elements you could bring in as well, if you want, right? If you want to spice it up a little bit. Anything else you guys noticed? It's pretty good. Anything else I noticed? Oh, the last thing I would point out, this is a small thing from that video, but it might be helpful. You notice too, like he'll do a thing to her hair, which by the way doesn't look good for hair. I don't know a lot about hair. It doesn't look good. It looks like it's probably ruining her hair. But then she'll do it, which is kind of cool. Like, sort of tells the audience, you can do it, right? Like she opens a video with like, I don't know how to do this, but then it seems like she's got it, right? When she's doing so it's kind of a nice touch. All right. We're not going to watch the third video in here, but I want to tell you about it very briefly. The last video is entitled, let me get this right, How to Make a Great Instructional Video. It's a little bit longer than those. Those are like 2 minutes. This one is like 5 or 6 minutes. It's still pretty short. But it's much closer to the length we're thinking of, so that could also be a good example for you. But this one is a how to make a how-to video. It's a big part of the reason I didn't make one, actually. Because I had a little outline of things I wanted you to know, and this video nailed all of them. I was like, well, damn. And it's professionally done. Like, it's better than anything I could do. So, I would highly recommend checking this video out, maybe taking some notes. We may talk about it next week, just to make sure you kind of understand sort of where we're coming from with that. But the guy talks about things like storyboards and basically planning out what you're going to do before you do it. He also talks about things that you may not care about. He mentions music. I think at one point they kind of imply you should have a badass camera. It's like, no. You have a phone. You're fine, right? Things like this. Questions at this stage? Okay. My one worry with this assignment, well, it could be multifaceted, but to boil it down to one thing for you, is like technical stuff. So I know most, if not all of you, are in some ways technically savvy, right? We live in 2020, we're just in that world. I don't know how anyone walks around and doesn't know how to use a smartphone these days, right? Like, I think they just put you in jail or something, right? You're not allowed to be out and about. But it might be worth, at some point in the process, before you actually sit down, and again, film yourself or whatever, mess around with it a little bit. Make sure you know how to do it. If you feel like you're going to need some editing stuff, you might Google that. For instance, iPhones, obviously they make video, but you can also get iMovie for free when you can edit with that. There's a couple of different, there's editing software that you do not have to pay for. If you have a laptop or something, you can put it on there. I forget the one I use at home, but if anybody needs it, I could look it up for you. But I have free editing software on my computer at home. Same thing goes for sound. Like the stupid song I made for the video I was starting to put together, I did it in GarageBand on my phone, right? On a little synthesizer. I was actually pretty proud of it, I'm not gonna lie.
You should have a free editing thing?
Yeah, there's all, the point I'm making here is you should not have to pay for anything unless you just want to. I don't know as much about on-campus resources these days, but I would imagine there's probably something along those lines you could also look into. You might talk to like a librarian or somebody in a computer lab if you want to try to do stuff there. I'm willing to bet there's at least some computers on campus that have editing software. So like early in the process, what I'm saying is try to think of any hurdles that might come up for you too, and then let's go about helping you get over those, right? Okay. All right, last thing I want to do, I know some of you started to pack up because you're very good at that. We don't get out of here until 1:45 though. We're getting out a little early. We're not getting out yet. We're getting out a little early, okay? But as a trade-off for that, a sort of carrot, I want to brainstorm a little bit here, right? So the same sort of thing I want you to do for homework by Saturday, I want to start the conversation here to hopefully make that a little easier. I've given you a couple examples of like what I might make a how-to video about. How to dress a toddler. If I were you, and that is to say, if I were in this class when I was like 19 or 20, this is lame, but like how do synthesizers work? They're actually pretty crazy. There's a whole science, it's all about waves. I know it's really lame, but like that would maybe be a video I would think about, right? Because I know about that. I feel like I could explain that to people.
Sounds interesting to me.
Do what?
Doesn't sound. Okay, so I'm sure I'm the only one who thinks this, but it doesn't sound lame to me.
Well, I appreciate that. But anyway, I'm kind of spitballing a little bit, trying to get you guys thinking. Like, for instance, is there anybody right now who feels like, I'm not saying anybody's 100% on an idea, but this is something I might do, or this is something I'm kind of kicking around. Has anybody got anything? Yeah.
I think I'm gonna do how to get over a breakup.
Wow. Okay.
Because I mean, I can have my friends in the video and then go into detail like.
Sure.
You know.
Well, and that one in particular, and then I'll come to you next one. That one in particular would do well with like a dramatization sort of portion, right? And I mean, it depends on where it went, but there could even be the sort of thing like maybe dealing with different kinds of breakups, right? If it needs to be a little bigger. Because some are amicable, some are, as I mentioned to you guys, she finds you and punches you in an alleyway, right? Like it depends. And you're going to deal with that differently. So yeah, that could be cool. That's out of left field. I didn't think about that. That was great. Yo, what's up?
How to draw a face.
How to draw a face. That's
I'm not-
weird.
I mean,
No, I mean that's cool, but like, yeah, drawing a face is weird.
but I mean, I might like condense it down to like, let's say like an eyeball or like a realistic mouth or something.
Depends on how detailed the drawing is. Yeah, well, even that, what it might do is you start with one like part, like you say, and then just when you shoot it and put it together, it could be longer than you think, or it could be shorter, and then at that point you're like, oh, well then maybe I need to, broaden it some. Yeah, absolutely. I haven't drawn in years. The hard part for me was always hands, actually. Face is always easier to me for some reason. Hands are hard. Okay, cool. Some other ideas. Very different ideas, by the way.
What about how to manage a home?
What did you say?
How to manage a home?
How to manage your home. What do you mean by that? I think I know.
Well, that's what I did. I posted mine.
Oh, okay.
So that you don't be evicted.
So how to manage your like money?
Financially.
Okay, that's something a lot of people have trouble with. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
I have a friend, when I saw this thing, it came to my mind, so I started writing about it. I
Okay.
have a friend, she constantly getting evicted from her home, and still she, as an adult, she doesn't learn that you have to prioritize stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Totally.
In
What-
terms of a bill on
Yeah.
expenses.
Well, even that, like, there could be different ways to think of it, to approach it. So, like, the way I manage my money now is very different from how I managed it when I was in my early 20s, because I just have more of it, right? It's a little easier. In my early 20s, my budgeting was, I knew what all my bills would be for the month, so as soon as I had that, I would put it somewhere safe and hidden, and I wouldn't touch it. And then, like, the $20 I had left or whatever would be, like, what I had for the month. Right? So it depends on where you are in your life as well. Yeah, totally. When you say manage your home at first, I thought you meant how to like keep a household together, because that's a whole thing too, right?
That's what I thought.
Yeah, well, like not just keep shit clean, because that's kind of for most of you all you have to worry about right now, and some of you even don't worry about that right now, right? But like once you add pets or significant others or kids or anything like that, just stacks on top of each other. I built us a pool in the backyard a couple years ago. That's a whole damn thing I have to deal with now. Like it's just gotta manage that home. Like that's a whole different way to take that topic, right?
And to deal with the unexpected too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. As best you can. Yeah. Absolutely. One or two more.
So I would do how to derive the quadratic formula using completeness squared on the equation ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0.
I would do my absolute best to follow you.
You're doing your absolute best to follow.
Do what now? I lost you. What?
Like to keep up with you, so he doesn't like lose. Like it's so
Yeah. So like, with something like that, I mean, anything that's very technical. So here we have mathematics, but anything like that. And you'll notice this if you ever watch like videos on space, you know? Because I like that stuff because I'm a nerd in that way. All of them will have some kind of illustration or some way of not just helping us understand what we're seeing, because as soon as you started dropping all those variables, I guarantee you just about everybody in here checked out, right? They're like, no. So if there would be a way to not just show the equation on screen or whatever, right? But then also occasionally break away to some way to help us visualize that or conceptualize it, right? And the flip side of that too is those breaks, just like the animation in the second video we watched, they're little breaks, they're little breathers, they're kind of nice changes of pace. They might get our attention depending on what they are. And those can be nice too, right? That's something you can do in a video that you can't do just like talking, right? Yeah, cool. We had a hand up here as well, even though she may not want to say it now.
What I was gonna say,
Yes?
the only thing I'm thinking about right now is like how to grocery shop, like as a student.
Sure.
Just because I'm not even grocery shopping.
Yeah.
So, could I make it like kind of like a vlog?
What do you
where,
mean?
Like if I was like in the store, like holding the phone with me while I was grocery
Oh,
shopping.
that's cool.
Oh, like yeah. And keep in mind too, I mean, you want to be careful. Word of caution, and you should be fine. But I just want everybody. So, like, in the event that you have to shoot in public, especially if it's like somebody's business, you just want to. You want to kind of keep it on the DL, right? They really shouldn't mind. The worst thing that would happen is be like, you should stop. You're like, okay. But people get weird sometimes if you're like in Kroger filming, right? Is the only thing. Huh?
I said, yeah, that's where I shop.
Well, yeah, because we're in Carrollton and it's like right over there. Yeah. But no, like that is a cool idea. And kind of what you're thinking of, again, it depends on the topic. So like a math equation versus shopping at Kroger are going to present different opportunities. You're going to approach them in different ways. And what you're talking about, yeah, almost like a first person vlog, if you like, approach would make sense there. Yeah. And what you could do too, you might film most or all of a shopping trip. You might think of some particular shots that you want too, right? That you could pretend were real, but aren't. We don't know that. And then when you get back, you've shot a half hour of a thing, that's not gonna be your whole video, so you take little parts of it, right? You cut it up, delete some stuff, move things around. Yeah, absolutely, that'd be cool. Yeah, me shopping for groceries when I was 20 was like, all right, I need to hit the Totino's, I need to make sure we have toilet paper at the house. I would get like 3 things. I don't know, maybe the 3rd thing was milk. Right? I could have used your help. What are some things I'm not thinking of? Right? Yeah, sure. Cool. So, for your homework, right, we'll start there, we'll start small. For your homework this week, that's what we're doing. Your original post will be that. And if you just have the one idea, that's totally fine. Talk to us about that. If you have a couple ideas, talk to us about all of them. You can be undecided right now. That's great. Have a few ideas. And then your classmates are going to look at them. You're going to look at your classmates, and 2 things will happen. Number 1, you might get some cool feedback, which I think everybody appreciates. But number 2, the even better thing that can happen, you'll read somebody else's idea, and you won't necessarily steal that. You don't necessarily know what they know. But that'll spark something else that you forgot that you knew. You're like, oh, this is kind of like that, but I totally know this way more than what and now you're doing that instead, right? That's the goal of this homework assignment. It is just meant to be generative and to help each other out a little bit, okay? After you do that, if you want to go back and look at the prompt, I would highly suggest that. Keep in mind, we have those videos on CourseIn, those examples. We also have that 3rd one we didn't watch, which is the how to make a great instructional video. That is actually super helpful, could give you some ideas about how to approach this whole thing. And we're going to get into it next week. Sound good? All right, I'll see you then.